Hey everybody, this is Cullah number 25, and we got Kevin MacLeod, right? Is that how you pronounce it? Kevin
Kevin
MacLeod.
MacLeod, but
Kevin
close
MacLeod.
enough.
MacLeod, like there is no clouds outside, right?
Yeah, yeah. Or
Yeah.
of the clan MacLeod,
The
or however you
MacLeod.
want to do it.
Yeah, I'm a McCullough, so
McCullough.
but it was a Mac Cullah at one point, but then they dropped the A when they went from Scotland to Ireland, I believe, was
That,
the thing. They're just the different
that sounds reasonable.
pronunciations. Yeah. And then they came over on a boat, to the United States. But is that a Scottish name then?
It
Or
is a Scottish name.
yeah.
I have no Scottish parentage. I picked that. I got married very young, and her name was just way cooler than mine. So, and you
Dude,
get one name change for free. So taking that one.
I've been saying that since I could remember that it doesn't like you should take the name that is cooler just every
Yeah,
time. If you have a cooler name, that's better than the I don't know. It carries much more weight and significance, I feel like, just
yeah.
overall. I don't know. So yeah, thanks for coming on. And you are a Creative Commons composer and musician, right? And so so there might be some people out there who are familiar with Creative Commons a little bit because they heard of it through just hearing me talk about it. And that's essentially this idea of sharing things more, and trying to reform intellectual property to be a little more in control, maybe more democratically. And I'm really, really fascinated in how Creative Commons has, kind of shaped your career and how you've used it over the years to be, to come to the level of success that you've had in being a composer. Because so many people it's just such a daunting thing. So many people be like, how can I be a successful composer? And then they hear this Creative Commons idea that, I'm giving it away for free, and then people feel like, well,
Yeah.
then that doesn't make it seems so counterintuitive, so to so many
It's
people. So
it's okay.
yeah.
You can still sell your music on iTunes. You
Right.
still get paid on Spotify. You still own all the rights to it. It just makes it so much easier for everyone else to use it.
Right. So
And that's what you want. If you're making music, you want people to hear it. You want to get it in front of a lot of people. Uh, if you put those roadblocks in where you got to call and you got to get a license, nobody wants to do that. They just threw together their 15-second TikTok thing and they want it to go.
right. Yeah. So how long have you been embracing that Creative Commons idea? And
I started giving away my music before Creative Commons existed.
oh, okay.
And I had my own license, which was, anyone can use this for whatever they want. Give me money if you'd like. And then Creative Commons came out and I'm like, finally, the
Hmm.
time has come. This is a thing that people are going to be using, and everyone's going to switch to this. And I switched on as soon as I really knew about it.
Yeah. So are you feeling that it's a growing thing since kind of being ahead of the curve in that aspect of sharing? Imagine that. But
I
how have you
I
seen
thought
it?
by this time, yeah, I thought by this time so many people would be on it, and it's a little disappointing how many people don't do it.
Right. What do you think? Why do you think that is? Do you think that there's just some inherent like it's too fringy and the ideas are kind of pushed aside, or
A lot of it, people think that it makes their artwork seem like cheaper.
Hmm.
It's like, oh, if you don't charge for it, it must not be any good.
Right.
Well, I mean, if your music isn't any good, then it isn't any good, and no one's going to use it for anything.
Right.
But there's enough music out there that there's good music in Creative Commons.
Yes. So I think the first idea of Creative Commons and those concepts when I was a kid was that when I lived on the internet as like in a creative aspect, like I didn't have any creative peers in my surrounding group as a in middle school and high school, but I was making music, and so I would put it online, and then I found the ideas of open source technology through, using different software and learning how to program and all that stuff. And so Creative Commons to me was a no-brainer when I heard about it. Just through it, to me, it was just that similar mindset of having easier, accessible licenses. And I didn't even I started using Creative Commons. I had no idea what it really how it worked or anything. But all I knew was that it was just another place I could put my music on Free Music Archive, and just have another place where people can have access to it. And this is probably, this is probably a similar thing to what you've experienced, is then all of a sudden YouTubers and people on Vimeo and podcasters and game developers and all these people all of a sudden started using my music. Some asked me, some didn't give attribution, some did,
Yep.
and through the whole thing, it's, like you said, you still can monetize it in literally every other way possible. But is there any drawbacks to being Creative Commons other than exclusive licensing or something? Or
I don't know of any.
Yeah.
I mean, so the problem with the Creative Commons license won't work for everyone. If you need to do like a 30-second television spot, you can do it, but they don't want to put a credit on screen. So you can just sell an alternate license alongside of it. So you're not losing out any of that money. You're not losing out on any of the royalty stuff. What is the downside? I guess people will take your music and they'll use it and they won't attribute things to you, and then more people hear your music. I can't think of a downside. It just really doesn't. I don't understand. I don't understand the world.
Yeah, I know what I feel your pain there, because I started doing that too, and with Creative Commons I was releasing it, but I put a restriction of the non-commercial license on it because I still was like, well, I want people to ask me. So I was like, I had all these hoops people would have to jump through, be like, okay, if you want, these songs are all non-commercial, which is just another, for people that are listening, that's just like another like kind of restriction of the Creative Commons license. There's various degrees of kind of how many rights you want to reserve or how many you want to give up to the people to how they can use it. And one of those is like a stipulation that it can't be used for commercial purposes. So I was doing that, and then having people ask me, send me an email if you want me to waive the commercial licensing, and no one did really. People still used it as if it was an attribution license, and mostly they'd still paste it in, and see clearly that it was a monetized thing, or they put it in a, and so. And then the people that did ask, it was this correspondence back and forth of, yeah, sure. And I liked it because I like to have that communication. But I ended up just removing it altogether because it just felt like another barrier. So it was just like.
Right. And like where's the line between commercial and non-commercial? Right. If you've got a YouTube channel that's just starting up, well, it's non-commercial until you can get enough people to monetize it. Well, does that invalidate it now?
Right. Yeah, there's
when the piece was made, it was non-commercial, but now it's commercial, but it's not super commercial.
Like I'm getting like 5 cents.
Right.
Is that commercial? Like maybe in 5 years, I'll be making $50 per thing. That's different. And that's what I ended up having to I really struggled with that too when I was trying to like sell things too, just sell license, but I didn't really know that I needed to make a license for them, like an alternative license. And then we'd be negotiating all this like budgeting, and then I'd be like, hey, do you have a budget? And they'd be like, well, no. And I'd be like, well, okay, yeah, use it. Or I'd say like, do you have a budget? And then they wouldn't get back to me. It was clearly like some giant publishing company that wanted it. I'm like, they have a budget, but how much is their budget? And then I try to like think. I started trying to understand how to be more SEO present on the internet, about like being a Creative Commons musician, trying to like honeypot those keywords a little more into my website. And so I searched Creative Commons musician, and that's where I discovered your website in compotech.com, right?
Yeah.
And so it was right there, pretty much first page of Google, the
Okay, great.
or first or second at least. And
Yeah.
so I stumbled on it, and then I went and I said, this person's from Green Bay? Oh, no shit. Like, I was like, this is so tangible and doable. And then all of a sudden and then I went and saw that you were giving these alternative licenses for commercial purposes. And it was just a little shopping cart essentially, where they just digital PDF download, and that blew my mind. I was like, oh, this is what I need to do.
Absolutely.
Give an alternative for people, because there were people who'd be asking me how much for this, and I'd be like, it's free, right? But then part of my mind would be like, okay, well, I should have a fee for these things. But is that?
Yep.
I mean, I'm sure you've experienced probably all the stuff at a higher
Yeah,
degree.
no, that's exactly why I started offering those. Because like accounting departments are like, well, we need this. Right. We need to pay you because this is how we've always done it.
Right.
And the creative people are saying that you're the person I need to talk to, and not the other, catalog music company that we used to work through. I'm like, oh, all right, I'll write up some scripts and make a little form and pass out a PDF, throw it into a database, and I've been using that old software for like 15 years now.
Yeah, I mean, it worked for me. I looked at it, and I you were able to download the PDF without paying or whatever. It was separate things. So I looked at the PDF, I dissected it. I was like, this is just a page. Like, this is just a page of like standard license that I've signed, non-exclusive standard license. It's even simpler. And you just had that little injection, right, of like the specific projects that they would use it for.
Yep,
and,
that's it.
Yeah,
and then the client, the name of the things, and
I thought that was a very elegant way to solve that, and it just kind of it blew my mind. I was just like, oh yes, and because there was a lot of the big questions I had about Creative Commons was how can I monetize it at the same time? It's really interesting your reaction when I ask you about the downsides, because it's something that I've been trying to advocate now a little bit more to musicians. Be like, give it out, give it all out.
Yeah.
Like, to me, it was similar idea that you were talking about why make it harder for people to access your music. If people are listening, that's a good thing, no matter what. And we know with AI and all these different with these different, with Siri and Shazam's been around for quite a long time, and you can still find things that aren't attributed, but attribution is always the best. But why did you give your things out for free before this whole Creative Commons movement? Because I'm not knowledgeable in anything before Creative Commons or all that, or part of the movement. I'm very curious, like what made you decide to do that?
So in the way back times, before the days of YouTube, before any of this stuff happened, it was so hard to get music that didn't suck. You could go to the Library of Congress and you could get like recordings from pre-1921, and that was about it. Your other option was to like subscribe to a stock music company, where every month they send you the CD of their tracks for this month with their 30-second cut, their 60-second cut, their 2.5-minute background loop. And, what are the chances they're going to have the music you want this month? I mean, they weren't even selling stuff online at that time. So it was just a painful time to be a creator. I'm like, oh, I know how to make music. I'll just share all this stuff. Maybe somebody else can use it. Yeah, there wasn't really an intention to like start a movement, but I'm not even sure I did. Come to think of it, but I mean, I would like it to be a movement, because, like you mentioned, the AI, that's coming for all of us.
Yeah.
So the day of the production style that we have now is coming to an end.
You mean that in the sense of like like AI composition or the AI digital rights, like kind of like like signaturing sound, the recorded sound.
Composition.
Yeah,
The computers are going to be able to
Yeah.
write better everything than us fairly soon. I'm giving it about 5 years.
I've heard some AI composed music. It's pretty decent. You know, like you plug in a couple variances of different keys, and it can study, right? It can study composers, and it can just spit it back out. That's what I saw one AI when it was a study of. Yeah, it was an AI that would emulate certain composers' styles by knowing their signature like rhythmic patterns and different modes and scales that they would use, and just spit it back out. Yeah, I'd like to think that's a little bit in the future, but that when we reach that point, I think there will be a bigger existential thing. We won't be worrying about licensing music, maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know. Yeah,
and those things literally can't have copyright.
Right. Yeah.
So anyone will be able to use any of them.
Unless it's, I mean, you don't think that Facebook's AI is going to own all the things that it creates, or do you think it's just going to be?
AI owns half of my stuff, apparently. I get like
flagged.
Well, not just Facebook's. Like people take my music and then upload it to catalogs and stuff, and then like they get copyright dings on Facebook. Certainly, YouTube less these days, but
I've been hearing about Facebook's pretty primitive in how they're dealing with all the audio and copyright and stuff, that they're just starting to build their tools for that stuff now, maybe. And I've been hearing from people who do radio shows. I was just talking with a friend about this today. He was yesterday he was saying, I'm doing radio shows of all the musicians and composers in my neighborhood and like in my town, and I get explicit permission from all of them to use this. And it doesn't matter.
Nope.
It doesn't matter. So they were getting shut down, and he's just like, Facebook is actively shutting these things down, and they're curious as to what it was. They're saying that that he was using my music and it didn't get flagged, and I use like DistroKid, but I send it all to the Instagram / Facebook stories thing, but it didn't get flagged, and he's saying that they were getting flagged, and so it's very confusing. So that was one of my main questions I was going to ask you, was about how it goes when you start going to 3 or 4 degrees of separation, because I've experienced that too, where I'll give it to someone, a videographer, they'll use it, and and they'll send me what they're working on. It's great, and I love it, and they give credit and stuff, and then they give it to their client, and then the client removes all like written attribution or even on-screen credits. They're like, nah, and the guy's like, can I not? And they're just like, well, I have to get this job done. So they do it, and I've seen my music reshared on Facebook, getting hundreds of thousands of views and stuff on a filmmaker page or something, and
congratulations.
No attribution, no nothing, no anything, which is clearly against the license. But so my question was like, what? Talk about the downsides, and is that enforcement aspect of things, is that a downside, like, so that there's no real enforcement of it, or how could we enforce that?
You can absolutely take legal action against those.
Right.
I've never taken legal action against anyone.
Yeah.
It's just not where I want to spend my time and effort.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't have a problem with people using my stuff wrongly. Because more than half people don't attribute, or they don't do it correctly.
Right.
Like where they'll put my name on there, but they'll spell it wrong, and then they won't have the title of the piece.
Right.
And then now I get emails from their fans saying, "Hey, what was that piece of music that was on so and so's web channel?" I don't know.
So you think it just kind of comes with the territory of that, like, more freedom comes more, like there's going to be more confusion, or do you think that if there were more, if like you mentioned that in 2020 you were hoping it would be a little bigger or a little more, have a little more cultural weight or something in
Yeah.
in mainstream. And do you think that there could be a way to like, if more people were doing it, if it were that position, do you think there would be more weight collectively as the Creative Commons, that more people would understand what the attribution and the value of attributing? Or do you think people are just ultimately going to be driven by their nature of just getting the work done to get money from their client or to get their video out on YouTube? Or
Right. I found that, like, if your music's being used on like a television show or like anything with like, we have a professional person in charge of rights. They will always pay you. They will always track you down. They will always get you the money. And the people that don't attribute stuff, yeah. So, 3,000 views on YouTube, 100,000 views. They're they're not the they're not the they're not the ones that you want to that have the money in the
right.
first place. And I just have no problem with that at all.
Yeah. Because I mean, is it a thing that you see that value that you've created and like that's satisfying, or is it
Oh
just
yeah.
it's just that's my
Yeah, you
listen
could,
to that. Yeah.
because these people can literally steal music from anywhere.
Right.
They got mine though. So I won. They're not going to pay for anything. They'll
Right.
be like, "Oh, no, I really like Madonna. I need to have Madonna in the background of my music, of my videos." It's like, "Okay.
Right.
Well, I mean, you're not going to get any of the money for those videos, but okay."
Yeah, I almost found that content ID system, opting out of the content ID system on YouTube, almost is it's almost a better move if you're a Creative Commons musician who can be discovered by filmmakers and YouTubers, because
Oh yeah,
that's
because
been my
otherwise
number
nobody
one.
will use you.
Yeah, that's been my number one area of growth, has been from YouTubers, and like directly related, like there's a direct proportion of like, oh, this YouTuber from England who has 100 this X number of crazy amount of fans, and I don't know how they do that, but they do it. And and then I see on Spotify all of a sudden 10, 20 new playlists over the next week of all of this particular song that this person used, and everyone. So that, I mean, that's some real, ultimately it's like, can you get the music in front of people's ears, and then maybe the rest follows, right? Like, but
yeah, for everyone that has not heard you, I guarantee they don't like you, because how
Right.
could they? There's a lot of musicians out there who are like, "Oh, exposure doesn't give me any money at all. I can't get anything from exposure." I'm like, "Yeah, you can. You really can.
Yeah,
It's
that's
not perfect, and it takes a while, and it's weird, and it's not going to come where you're expecting it to come from. But no, exposure is, you need it. If you don't have exposure, you're just music in a closet somewhere. You're not affecting people's emotions. Nobody gets to, it's just terrible."
Yeah, that's a pretty pervasive meme in that I see a lot in musician circles, is the exposure thing. And I hear the thing to a degree. I hear it when they're performing musicians and stuff. It's tough to when they're not having, they don't have any dividends coming back. It's all just performance. And I get the aspect. Someone would be like, I saw some meme of calculating how many dollars is one exposure dollar equals. One exposure dollar equals like a 0.04 real dollars, and then they add up but I mean that's how I mean things add up. That's a good point about just the exposure of the music and how valuable that is. So but it's like you said earlier, if you also have to have good music, right? That's a pretty key part of it.
Nobody's gonna take your stuff if it sucks. Well, some people will.
So when did Incompetech come up in? So you said you wrote a little script. So do you have a background in software too? Is that maybe where some of the open source mentality kind of was there with you too, or?
Yeah, I did web development from like 94 to 2002-ish, somewhere in there. So the early days.
Everything was on a table. Everything's tables.
There was a lot of tables. The days before CSS were dark, dark days. I bet you I still have some 20-year-old code on my site, and it's still probably in tables.
See, that's
don't view source. It's not okay. It's not okay. There's like 3 different content management systems that are like weaseled together somehow.
Hey, if it works, right?
Yep, just barely, but it does.
That's how I feel at my site too. I also have a background in web development too. So it's a pain, but it's so important to have your own website and to be able to be a hub. Because I was just having a conversation with someone about Bandcamp versus Spotify versus how the artists pay out of all these different platforms, and compared to selling it on your own site where you control everything, right? And there's convenience of using these platforms and stuff, but for in particular like Bandcamp, which it's a database that houses lots of music, and there's lots of there is a community there and everything, but it's a kind of a glorified donation aggregate. They just kind of give you access to the artists. You can directly give donations, which is great. But imagine if all these artists had a website and they went, and there was you didn't even need you don't even need Bandcamp, right?
Well, but I'm not going to go to like 5 different artist websites and buy them each independently and like put in my PayPal or credit card information all those times. Like,
you'd have to really, really be a fan of those 5.
Yeah, ever since I started in, Patreon. Patreon is lovely.
Yeah, I took a look at your Patreon. I bet it seems lovely.
Once you start getting going there, and then you find these other people like, oh, I'll give you $2 a month. Oh, I'll give you $20 a month. And it's just fun being part of the Patreon community. Then I can have a podcast that comes and it's like, oh, we've got a whole bunch of extra stuff on our Patreon. I'm like, yeah, $2. I'm already there. My information's there. I don't have to do anything else. It's so easy.
So you're saying with Patreon that the one of the things that you like about Patreon is that when you get money from your patrons, and then you can just take that money and give it back into the community of other people, right? Is that what you're saying? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen Patreon. I've had a Patreon for a few years. I haven't spent too much effort on it. There's so many things to maintain, and I feel like Patreon is one of those important things to maintain. But it becomes a struggle for me to. I
mean, to be fair, I cheat hardcore on Patreon. I've got 3 tiers, and I don't promise you anything. None of them. It's all vaporware. Sometimes I'll like post new music on there, and I'll do things now and then, but I don't have I will do this every month, and this is what you're getting. No, they're giving you money because they like what you do,
right?
And they want to support you and be a part of your world.
Yeah, you get those emails from Patreon, but you need to like delegate all these different things and make all these, do all this and do all this, and use our proprietary video software that doesn't interface with anything else.
Yep.
And if you want to host music just for patrons, then you got to get Vimeo Plus, and you got to do all these things. You got to, it's when you want to just compose, right? You just want to make the music, right?
Exactly.
I just want to be making the music, but now I have to be a businessman and a lawyer and a developer and all these things, and that's why I feel like kind of the modern creative kind of has to know all these things. Huh.
But yeah, no, get
Patreon.
Here, I'll give you the quick tutorial on Patreon. Have like a $3 tier, an $8 tier, and like a $20 tier. And then just don't promise them anything, and then just post stuff there all the time, or not.
Yeah, but so do people just go to that Patreon through Incompetech, or how do they find out about that?
Yeah, it's on Incompetech. It's on my other site, FreePD. Every time I email people, it's definitely in my signature. Because
Right.
strangely, I try to make it very easy for people to give me money, and I still get emails saying, "How can I give you money?" I'm like, "Well, you
Let me
apparently
tell
missed all
you.
the big things that I had on my website asking for it, but here you go."
Yeah, you don't want to be angry at those people, right?
No, not at all. That's my fault. I'm sorry.
I'm glad you mentioned your other site. I took a look at that the other day. You said freepd.com.
Yeah, freepd.com.
And so is that kind of a community? Is it a big community that you're building or of other artists? I saw that there's multiple artists on there, or is that just you
Yeah.
in 5 different pseudonyms?
No, there's actually other artists. And they're all people that I've met
Sure.
who write music and unlike you, they were all like not really into Creative Commons, and their artwork is dear to them. I'm like, come on, people, join in the band.
Yeah.
Like I can't put you on my site because people are already confused. And they think that,
Right.
and because Incompetech was just me forever, so cranked up the new website and got everybody on there, and we're going full public domain there. You don't have to attribute.
Really?
You can download every piece of music from that website and then sell them to other people if you want. Good luck, because it's hard to sell music,
Yeah.
but you can legally do it.
Yeah, so the public domain then, so when you use Creative Commons, do you use attribution on Incompetech, and most of your music you use so why is why the move to the public domain, which is, for all those people listening, that's just another step further where he just mentioned it's basically all rights reserved, right? Like anyone can
all of your rights are gone.
Yeah.
Yep.
So why did you decide to do that? Just to offer just to make it even easier for people?
It is absolutely easier. Yep.
Yeah. And does a similar fate happen to those musicians who go into full public domain versus the attribution? Do people find out about it, or is it just really for those people who don't care at all and they just want to share and they don't care if they get credited or not?
Well, so with the individuals that I have, we have Raphael, who is a longtime Audio Jungle
Yeah, I've heard of it.
seller of Audio Jungle stuff, and he's got thousands of pieces of music up there. So when I said I was going to do this, he just found like 100 pieces that didn't sell in the last 3 years. He's like, well, these aren't selling anyway.
Gotcha.
So I'll make some extra money off of these. And so he gave me those. I rejected, I don't know. I took about a third of them and put them in there. And that's, if you've got stuff that's not doing anything, why not?
Yeah.
It's not super commercially viable. I mean, if you get on the front page of Audio Jungle, you're good for that week or that month that you're there.
Right.
But some of these tracks are being sold on Audio Jungle for $40, and they're also in the public domain.
Yeah, I've seen sites like Audio Jungle or other ones where I've tried to sign up for some of these websites, and they'll say really big letters beforehand, is this licensed? Like, these have to be exclusive to our site. Like, that is Audio Jungle. Obviously Audio Jungle isn't an exclusive thing.
I don't think Audio Jungle is exclusive, but the places that a lot of them are, right?
Yeah, and that just seems silly to me. I was just like, okay, what? Well, I'm gonna bank all of this song on you, and know you're.
Hey, if they're selling it, sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess, but like, I guess the way I go like album a year compositions and stuff, and it kind of the Creative Commons thing is just part of it. But I don't make composition that's maybe for I don't know. They're cinematic and artistic in their own way, but it's not. I'm not trying to like create moods or for like, yeah, more commercial type type things. But yeah, I don't know. So they are near and dear to me, and be like, no, this is I would want it to be everywhere. As opposed to just exclusive. But that's for those. But I have made like the beat that was just played for this theme song. Like I have sketches and beats and stuff that
Yeah.
I haven't released or anything. But yeah, Mike, that was another question, was whether you've ever messed with other licensing or publishing companies to help you out with the things, or have you just completely relied on the DIY? I touch and own everything. I have full control.
I've done the DIY stuff exclusively up until last year, and I was working with a guy out of Germany who does a website called filmmusic.io.
Hmm.
And so I basically kickstarted his catalog, and then he was taking care of all the billing and all of the licensing, and which is good because it's getting very hard to do it by yourself now. Um, the licenses I have are literally the simplest that my lawyer could help me with.
Right.
And it's like take out like all of the provisions, like get it down as small as you can do. But when you get into some markets, they don't trust it. You get into Austria, oh, they need to have all the things spelled out. It's like, well, in my contract it says everything, everywhere. Your specific use, nope, it needs to be in there. So the licenses on filmmusic.io are a little more comprehensive, I guess, for the
Yeah.
German and Austrian markets.
Yeah, like I mentioned, being kind of have to be a lawyer and a and a rights attorney and to know some of this stuff. But it's good that, because I think that's one of the biggest barriers to the concept of Creative Commons, is that it kind of requires a certain level of understanding of rights and licensing and stuff that I think, like for me, it took years to really. I mean, granted, I wasn't studying it every day and trying to make sense of it. It would just information would slowly seep into my brain, and every once in a while I'd come to a realization of what it was. But still, like, I've read the Creative Commons International CC BY license a few times, like all the way through, and it's been like, okay, I still don't understand. It's so complex. And I read the Creative Commons human readable things, and that makes sense, but that's not the whole picture. But yes, okay. So so then when people go on and will get the public domain songs, are they also contributing then with that? Like how often, just in general, maybe, that might be the interesting case of that because it's public domain, but how often are people, or do you have the numbers on that for how,
like how often are people buying and donating?
Yeah, how many? Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
revenue comes in. You want to talk numbers? I can talk numbers.
Oh, I want to talk numbers.
So that site is pulling in about $1,200, $1,400 a month.
Okay.
So it's not a lot.
That's
but,
for like 4 different artists.
$300 a month per artist.
Yeah,
it's nothing to use at.
No, that's,
and once you throw it on there, it's just there forever. You don't have to do any more work. So you can get a few $1,000s a year off of that.
Yeah. So that's really just the value then of that. Is a lot of that value is the fact that you have that site that people know to go to and to get that music. And so how has it just been this organic growth of like word of mouth type thing that you've just built it and then they came, or is it something that you had tried to pursue, of like, okay, get it on this Reddit list and put it on the Creative Commons culture garden? And
nope. I've done literally no marketing my entire life.
Yeah.
Because talk about another thing that you need to be good at.
Right.
Like even if you want to like buy Facebook ads or something like that, I I'm just bad at it.
It's a
I
whole
figure if you
thing,
need the
man.
music, if you can find me, that's great.
Yeah.
I'm not going to spend money to get in front of you to give you a free product.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's a good point. Yeah. So as we've been talking, there's a live chat and people have some questions. John Griffith Jr. says he hasn't set up his Patreon and has a lot of unreleased stuff. What is the best site to monetize the music on, or is it a combination of several? So I think we kind of we were talking about that a little bit. He wants to know how to monetize the music. This conversation is kind of about how not to monetize your music. And then in return, it will monetize itself.
Well, get on DistroKid.
Yeah.
When DistroKid came out, that was a godsend. Because before that was horribleness. And then, DistroKid will get you on Spotify. Spotify will give you money.
Yeah.
Yeah, get it on iTunes. iTunes, they will cut you a check.
Yeah, I would agree. I had TuneCore for my whole discography for a while, and every year I released a new album. And TuneCore had this thing where you had to pay $50 per album per year. So I was like every year it was just getting worse and worse. I'm like, I don't even know if this is where it'd be like, wow, $800 for a year. Like I'd be lucky if I get that back, and so then I agree. Once DistroKid came out, it was $20 per year, period.
Yeah.
And it was much better service and faster and better interface, and like it was, yeah. And they're on top of it, and you get like free upgrades to all the new platforms and stuff. It's really, really fantastic. I agree. It was such a, oh my God, it was such a weight when I moved everything over. And TuneCore was still collecting little bits and pieces somehow, even though I had removed everything. They were still collecting like 5 cents from there, 10 cents from there, and they would, it would add up. So every once in a while, I'll get like $1 from. I'll check still, like
Sweet,
sweet. I don't know where this came.
Sweet residual cash.
So then, are you on DistroKid with all your Incompetech stuff, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And how do you find that to be a good diversification of everything when you use Patreon, and then you also have your site, so you have like all these different platforms that are sending, and then you put all your things on ASCAP too, and
nope,
or BMI. No.
Nope.
Why don't you do that?
I am not, because of legal problems.
Just because of all the movies and stuff and TV shows?
No, that's not the legal problems. The legal problem comes in when you sign with ASCAP BMI, like they get the right to sue people on your behalf. You can give them a list of people not to sue, like these people have been licensed. But with me, there's no way I can give them a list of 300,000 YouTube channels and say, don't go after these people, to get money from them. And so I've just chosen not to be a member of any professional rights organization.
Okay. Yeah, that's really interesting because I just put my entire discography on there. and I was, but with YouTube, I know that they use the Content ID system, right? And I wasn't sure that ASCAP or BMI had.
I literally don't know. I'm not in that world.
Yeah, but better safe than sorry in your position, I would imagine, right? Like, it's better to protect yourself and those people, because that was the main issue I had with YouTube in general. Why I pulled everything from Content ID. I had plenty of all these YouTubers that were using it that had asked, and I'd given permission, and and they were, and then I TuneCore asked, "Do you want to monetize your songs on YouTube?" I was like, "Okay, let's try that."
Oh,
And
why
then
not?
I did it, and then all of a sudden I got emails up the wazoo from people, but I
Yep.
did see a bigger check than I'd ever seen from YouTube. But I was like, okay, but that's like at what cost, right? And that's just
Yeah.
for this one. That's for people who are who were given permission, right? So I
Yeah.
quickly removed everything, and it was a whole headache at the time. But then eventually, it and I have had everything on ASCAP, but they haven't been collecting the whole discography. But I've still had people. I haven't had anyone say anything on YouTube yet, and I haven't had it. And that's just the whole issue, right? Because it's got, like we were talking about, Facebook and YouTube, and all these different platforms have their own little databases, and yeah, you can't ever know what these giant corporations and performance rights organizations are going to decide to do with your
Right.
music, right? That's an interesting take. Yeah, I'm curious about that. So I guess he gave a follow up here. So it's better to use public domain and Creative Commons and give the music away, and then people embrace that and and then seek you in mainstream channels. He's curious about the interplay between it.
Well, that's what I've been doing. Is it a good idea? I don't know. I've got a sample size of 1 over here.
Well, I've been doing it too.
Would
So
I
I
be
like
a
it.
millionaire if I monetize the YouTube
Right.
channels? I don't know.
But then no one would use it, and then they'd be like, "That guy says it was free," and then he didn't.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I would be the most hated person on the planet. You think politics is tough now?
Wait till you start monetizing your own music. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yes. So are
I'll
there
take
other?
my $40 million check and buy it.
Yeah, just
buy a
create
boat
a
and run away.
a new identity.
Yeah.
You can, you could probably start it all over. So are there any other platforms then other than, I mean, it sounds like you're all DIY.
Yeah.
But is there, when people come to you, like you were saying, other than the folks that you recruited to your own ventures, like other than DistroKid, are there publishing or licensing firms that you even are aware of or recommend or anything?
No, I got nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, the DIY seems to be the way to go with in a lot of ways. That's like
Yeah,
with
for the
it.
licensing, yeah, because I mean, I get weird requests for things.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, we can't find it. Like, we have a chain of laundry stores that we want to put music in, and the music people are upping their rates to, $80 per month per location. And what's it going to cost to get it licensed from you? I'm like, I don't know, just give me $80 and you can do everything forever. It's fine,
Yeah.
You just cut that deal.
Yeah, there's no middleman, there's no bureaucracy.
Yeah.
It's just
And there's so many weird things out there. I've got a deal with I don't even know if they're around anymore. There's a place called Plotagon where you can like type in a script and it will like block out and make a little animation of your script, and you can record dialogue or have it do voice synthesis just to you check out your movie script to make sure that the blocking works or whatever it is. And they just needed a bunch of stock music, and so all right, we'll do an annual fee there. There's a website called Chatterbaiter. I don't remember what it's called.
Chatterbaiter?
Yeah, and they do live stream adult content.
Okay. I was wondering about the baiter part of the
Yep.
suffix.
And so they wanted a catalog of safe music that they could stream on there that they wouldn't get into trouble with. I'm like, yeah, well,
Yeah,
do an annual license on that.
I mean, they want to probably use protection, right? I would imagine.
They do.
Yeah.
They do want to use protection. And also, they have money. I'm pretty
Right.
sure they have money. So
So then it sounds like you have tailored licenses for particular. So these are, and
no, I just make them up.
it's just like a verbal
It's like,
or a
what do
written
you
contract
need?
on an email, or is it a call?
Yeah,
Or
it's just email back and forth. What do you need? here's a Google Doc, here's the uh, invoice, and then that's it.
Yeah. So yeah, the invoice seemed like that was a big hurdle for me when people ask me for invoice. But like, invoice, what's an invoice? I don't know what an invoice. How do I send an invoice?
How do you send an invoice?
The-
And
How do you send
half
an
the
invoice? Do you
time they've
just
already gotten the invoice because it came through PayPal. It's like, didn't you
hmm,
get that? Oh, it doesn't look like our other invoices. Like, what do you need on it? Oh, it needs
yeah,
to have the name of your company and number. I'm like, yep, that was sent. You got an email. Well, can we get it as a PDF? All right, print it as a PDF and attach it, and then now they're happy. Like, oh,
yeah.
I don't understand, but okay.
Have you ever experienced these like overseas wire transfer things where you talk about people be licensing for things for like $80 or $90? I've had
Yeah.
experience with like overseas things that they want to do a Swift transfer or they want to do a bank transfer, where
Yep.
but it's like by the time it comes here, half of it's gone, and I'd just be like, please
Yeah.
send me the PayPal, and but they, I mean, is that something that you've experienced too with the international nature of this
Right.
whole thing?
Because
Like,
yeah, because every bank everywhere else in the world is reasonable, and those Swift transfers are literally free or
yeah,
very small percentage or very small fees. I remember, I don't know what it is now, but I knew it used to be like $25
yeah,
to get one of these transfers. And so I'm like, no, if it's under $1,000, you got to find another way.
yeah,
I'm not selling a $35 license and then getting a $25 fee to the bank. I would, because this happened just recently. Some people from Turkey were trying to license my music, and you cannot go from Turkey to PayPal.
huh,
It's not legal there, not allowed. You can't do it. And then they're like, well, yeah, should we send like a Swift transfer? I'm like, nope, just use it for free. And then like if for some reason you will be able to get to PayPal later, next year, 5 years from now, then throw me the money then.
yeah. Just take the just yeah. That seems to be. I only experienced that a few times, but when it was confusing, and yeah, I always just want the PayPal. So is the PayPal the primary kind of merchant service that you're using for selling these licenses and stuff? It's just
Yeah.
all online,
Yep.
and you just take the processing fee hit every time.
Yep.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It's not too much of a processing fee.
No, have you ever thought about adding the processing fee on the to the person, or is it just
Well, I mean, I
cost
made
of
up
doing
the
business?
number $30 in the first place.
Right.
So if I wanted more, I would have made it up a bigger
Right.
number.
31 point, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so what were you always composing music then, other than writing software, or is that something that came into your life, earlier or later on,
Oh,
or?
yeah. Music was very early on, you know, uh, 5 years old kind of thing. I did not have a musical family. My dad plays accordion, but very, very poorly. Absolutely terrible. But he really likes it, and so that's great.
So it was not a musical family, but you started playing. So did you pick up the accordion then?
Not until I didn't pick up really the accordion until I moved to New York, which is
When you
interesting.
left Wisconsin, that's
I left
when.
Wisconsin. Yeah.
Then it came out.
Yeah.
You're just like, I needed some reason. I need an accordion.
Need an accordion here. And in Brooklyn, an accordion is a pretty fashionable
Yeah,
instrument.
yeah,
So
that's a good point.
yeah.
Playing polkas out there.
Not in New York.
No, it's not hipster enough.
I don't know. Polkas. Every now and again, I try to make polkas cool, and it's hard.
Yeah,
It's
I
hard
hear
to
you.
do.
I don't think I think you can't. You have to embrace it for what it is. You know, you have to. I live in this neighborhood of art, kind of more artist neighborhood in Milwaukee called River West, and in the summer I'll walk around and there's a luthier across the street, and the whole building is shared with a bunch of musicians, and they're always playing accordion, and they're really
Yeah.
good. So maybe that's probably part of it too. Is that they're really good at the accordion, and just I was just going to another musician's house to have a jam with a bunch of other musicians. I walked right by them. All of them were playing. There's a snare drum, and they were playing accordion. They were singing that really famous one. Da, 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 da. Is this the something?
The Pennsylvania
Yeah.
polka.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
Oh God.
And
Yep.
I just felt
It's a good one.
I felt really good. Like the music made me feel really good. Like, and maybe it was just because I was walking through Milwaukee with all these people who, you know, there's just something special about it. It's like nowhere else, like not many other places in the world are going to be playing that. Like this is this more distinct regional culture that I'm witnessing, you know, and maybe that's what it was. But it was also just people just having fun on a good summer day, which is, summers are pretty important in Wisconsin. For however long they last.
Yeah, but I mean, polkas done well are joyous.
Mm-hmm.
They are no holds barred. We're flying around, having a great time. Pieces of music. It's, you know, but the problem is the people left today playing polkas, they're getting on. They're a lot older, and
Mm-hmm.
they're not as spry as they used to be, and the music isn't quite as fun as it used to be. You know, it used to be like, you know, you're 24, that you got a hot new accordion, you're getting some you're getting some action.
I've seen some people that make the accordion work in the, you
Yeah.
know,
I've
carpenter's son hipster guy, you know, playing the accordion at a house show
yeah.
in the basement.
Yeah, and it's really great. And but even the polka days up in Pulaski here, we
Mm-hmm.
got polka days now. Um I hate most of the bands.
Yeah.
You know, even though they have, you know, good brass sections, and like it's just not joyous. You know, Alex Meissner, you want to talk about a joyous accordion guy
Hmm.
and also monster player. I think he's out of Florida now, but there's the guy to look at for
Yeah.
bringing the fun.
So you think so the polka you're saying is because it's kind of a stale thing that hasn't evolved, right? It's kind of still stuck,
Yeah,
maybe still stuck in
right,
what it was in the heyday, and it hasn't
right.
really gone to another generation yet, and so there's not really much more. There's not much else to do to it, and so people don't have to innovate, or they don't have to, or
Well, even if you do innovate, you know, and you move to, you know, electronic bass, or you know, synths, and you know, tighter, crisper sounds. Even if you do innovate, who's gonna come listen?
the polka
It's like, oh,
king,
it's a polka. I think you could do it if you just don't brand it as a polka. You just brand it as,
right?
you know,
Alternative
like
folk.
folk EDM
Yeah.
fusion or something.
So polka, I'm assuming, I don't know, maybe it was, obviously if it was an accordion, it was part of, at least part of your upbringing. But what kind of music did you start composing with? Like what really drew you to wanting to make things? Was there particular styles, or was there a way of composing that brought you to it?
I was absolutely fascinated by film music.
Mm.
Music without words, that is just used to convey the things that you can't see. You can't see joy on screen. Oh, okay. Well, we'll get some joy here. Oh, sadness, like the power that had. And even when I was super young, I love that stuff. Just listen to soundtracks, you know, record television shows, just the audio.
what were some of your pretty more the ones that you stick out in your mind when you're young?
Almost nothing sticks out in my
Nothing.
mind. I
No,
apologize for that.
no, yeah, everyone's has,
But it was
or like
just, I don't know.
composers, certain composers that you like.
Um, I mean, I can name off all the big ones that everybody
Yeah,
loves,
sure.
but I don't think I'm gonna. Yeah, no,
It's just more
I
about the
liked the
appreciation of
concept
it.
more
Yeah,
than I wasn't a fan of any particular composer. The interstitial music from Gilligan's Island does a lot for Gilligan's Island.
yeah.
Just those little setups and those little blow-offs after the comedy bits, and like, that stuff's cool.
I think a lot of people don't really hear that, or they hear it, but they don't cognitively become aware of it, how important it is to those to yeah, changing your emotions. I mean, there's been times where I've been watching a movie and it's not a sad scene, but they play certain types of piano or like cello or something, and it'll just hit you. It'll just hit you, and they just build that context, and it can be done. It can be done decent, and you can still make people weep, just with some decency. So yeah, film. Okay, then that makes sense. Then how your stuff has kind of been, a part of. What was it? I think I read on your site over 1,000 movies, or on IMDb at least, or those are.
Yeah, it's quite a lot.
And did I read that it was also in Hugo? Was that?
Yeah.
And it was something about one of your one. Is there one song of yours that sticks out in terms of like the numbers of how many people use it? Is there like a viral song or how, I think I read something about that. Or
yeah, I mean, I've got some of those, happy clappy ukulele and glockenspiel pieces.
Yeah.
Those are big. I've got one called Scheming Weasel, which hit the internet way early on, which is just an English horn doing funny sounding English horn things. So the comedy ones are the ones that everybody knows and everyone looks at, because not a lot of people are writing comedy.
Yeah, it's like, so with comedy music, a lot of horns in comedy music. You think brass? Or is it...
Sure. Meatball Parade's got a lot of horns.
I'm just thinking of Curb Your Enthusiasm as like the classic. Just the theme song of Curb Your Enthusiasm is. It makes me, maybe because I've seen the film, but you can hear it, and it is. I don't know. It feels like a comedy, and I don't know. That's just because of the success of the show in imprinting that in my mind.
Okay.
But you know what I'm talking about, the Curb Your Enthusiasm theme.
Yeah, and well, I don't know. I was going to say Always Sunny in Philadelphia, but that's a different sort of thing. Do they list how many? I'm trying to look at how many things I'm credited for here. 3,000 composer credits. 600 music department credits. So, well, about 4,000 on IMDb.
Just for giving it out for free.
Yep. Yeah, don't tell me exposure doesn't work.
No, that's great. I have to say, yeah, when I saw your site and looked at it, I was like, oh, this person it's much more polished thoughts than I did. A lot of mine is just, I think the Creative Commons, embracing of Creative Commons. I'm not too familiar with the history of it. Have you worked with the organization at all, or have you
I never have.
No, you've just been using their licenses.
I don't even know if they know I exist.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like it's one of those organizations where they're probably just as, DIY, more DIY than you'd probably think. Yeah, I don't know.
I think wasn't the head of it was like running for president?
Lawrence Lessig, yeah.
Yeah.
The Harvard.
So they've got it's very legal over there. I
Yeah.
I kind of imagine them being, having hundreds of people. I don't know.
Yeah. It seems like I mean, it's running sites like archive.org and stuff now, right? And did
Oh, I
you,
didn't even know that.
well, sorry, the licenses are, I don't, not the organization.
Okay.
Like there's powering it, the concepts. And of course, it's able to empower people like yourself in a more tangible ways. I mean, sounds like you were able to license the stuff before that.
Yeah.
But I'm sure, did you see a clarity of messaging and a clarity of how things were after Creative Commons came out? Was there any sort of growth
I
in?
I hoped for it. I didn't really see it. Even with the human readable thing, even with it translated into how many different languages, there's still problems. And I think that's just going to happen
Yeah,
because not every YouTube channel is going to want to learn legal things. Even
right.
one line of legal is too much. So there's still a lot of confusion about it. It's when I talk to people about it, nobody knows what it is.
Yeah,
Um, Even some people in the industry have never heard of Creative Commons. I'm like, oh, okie dokes.
yeah.
Huh.
Do you think there's a way, or do you think are there ideas or things that you've experienced that can alleviate some of that confusion, or is it just part of the whole system? Is that there's so many people accessing it, you can't, like you said, not every
Yeah.
YouTuber is going to do it. Like, but how could you, if there was a way, how would you, if you could imagine, how could you like try to, if there was like some sort of leverage or more awareness of it, if there more people knew about
Yeah.
it,
Like some
maybe.
sort of nationwide ad campaign just to let people know what Creative Commons is.
Right.
But the truth of the matter is, most people don't make media.
Right.
Even though a lot of people make media, and certainly more today than ever have in the history of humankind, probably all put together, it's still niche.
Yeah.
And, the average person taking their kids to soccer doesn't need to know about Creative Commons.
No.
They turn on their TV, they watch their movies, they play their video games, and they don't care what the licensing was or any of that.
Right.
I got nothing.
Yeah. I'm just curious for my own selfish reasons of trying to
Yeah.
understand the better ways to communicate, because I think I don't know, it's a concept that all those things you're talking about, giving it free, removing the barriers, all those things, it's worked for me to a degree as well. And I've just been getting so many questions from people in just my local scene. They're asking, how do you internet? How do you do the internet thing? How are you doing this? And I say, well, I give it out I really, do a crap load of music every year constantly and always give it out for free. And,
Yep.
And allow people to be able to find it,
Yeah.
Have you used Free Music Archive? Was all your stuff on Free Music Archive as well? Or
My stuff had been put on Free Music Archive, yes.
okay. Yeah.
Not by me.
Really?
I don't know who put it up there.
Wow.
But Free Music Archive has been great. Yeah, they've been giving me, like, I'm not complaining. I just thought it was weird.
That is weird. Was it the whole library, or what?
Oh, hundreds and hundreds of pieces, yeah.
Wow. Maybe someone was just trying to do you a favor or something. But
That's fine. If you were the person who put it on, thanks. Because I got a lot of leads from FMA.
yeah, have you been following them more lately, or you?
I don't even know if I've been to the website. I know that I get emails and they mention that I'm on Free Music Archive. I might have an account. It's been a long time.
Yeah, recently they lost their grant funding from the University of New Jersey, and so then they basically were like, we're dead, we're dying, we're gonna die by everybody, and then this camera rental company called kit split or something. Yeah, this camera.
Okay.
Yeah, it came in and they were like, we're gonna save it, but then they like, it was still alive, but they just started splattering their ads over everything, and then
Okay.
and then that lasted like 2 weeks, and then everything broke, and then and then it became unusable for both listeners and creators.
Okay.
But then this company in the Netherlands, which you might have heard of, Tribe of Noise, maybe.
I have not.
They are like a hybrid Creative Commons and commercial licensing company. Tribe of Noise, and they have like a solid. I don't know too much about it, but they acquired essentially the data and Free Music Archive and built recovered the site, and now it's just a static snapshot of whenever it was dead or whenever right before it died.
Okay.
So all the stuff's up there still, but there's no growth
No
of the
new
community.
postings.
Yeah, as far as I've seen, and it doesn't seem to be. It seems like they're swallowing it up, and I mean, I would imagine they have their own business and they're just kind of like kept it alive, which is,
Yeah. That is nice. I mean, they're pushing out a lot of data a month, and that's not free.
no, yeah, yeah. So I guess, aside from all the licensing and things, which is of course all really fascinating to me, because I think it's something that a musician who's trying to want to take control of your own digital rights and you want to take control of your own things. Like, I think Creative Commons in a lot of ways can empower you, to be more aware of what you can do and how you can share your music and all those things. But from a purely compositional standpoint, like, you have just like a little studio with all the different, you compose with MIDI stuff more traditionally, or is it just all different real instruments, or is it a lot of generative, like
Very few real instruments. Only when I have to. It's a lot of MIDI, whole lot of software, a lot of software.
yeah.
So
When do you use those real instruments?
like if I need a didgeridoo or a vuvuzela or shakers or like something specific, then maybe even accordion, because accordion is very hard to synthesize well. I'll drop those in, but I will go through great lengths to not have to record, because you have so much more flexibility with the
Yeah.
MIDI. You just change the tempo, boom, no problemo. Everything sounds great.
So do you have a didgeridoo, or do you outsource
Yeah,
it?
just get a pipe. It's
Okay.
fine.
Just some PVC.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
I guess.
I mean, I have instruments. I play them occasionally. I played trumpet in college and clarinet, and I play flute and little bit of oboe now, and recorders and piano and stuff like that. But recording is so hard
Yeah.
to get to get everything to mesh straight. So, and yeah, if I can spend 5 minutes doing something most of the way, as opposed to 5 hours
Hmm.
to get like a good take, because you got to be a really good player. I mean, you can
Yeah.
edit, but you still got to be a good player in order to record that stuff.
So then, yeah, all of your music then is it all? It's all instrumental for the most part, or is it?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah, and that I would imagine people are happy. People, and that's one thing I realized too with all my music is a lot of times people like the song and they'll use it, and even me, I'll be like, don't use that, like, because they'll have people talking over it, but I'm still singing under it, and
Yep.
and that's what I like tried. That's what I've been trying to do is sell instrumentals, like have that be a thing that people can sell or that people can buy rather,
Yeah.
And because I don't know, I see yeah, there seems like there's a decent amount of value in that, because there's so many people looking for specifically instrumentals for
Yeah.
all different things. So yeah, you got you have any formal like music training, or was it just something that you pursued early on and just kind of ran with it? 6 o'clock.
I did go to college for music education,
Okay.
so I got a bunch of that there. And I think that actually helped me out quite a lot. Even though I dislike children and I dislike teaching, uh, I found that out.
There's only one way to find out.
Yeah, well, but like you had an entire semester of woodwinds. You had a semester of brass instruments, so you get to be pretty intimate with the whole orchestra and how they work. So it's easier to write for an instrument that you've at least picked up, even if you can't play it well. You know what kinds of things it does,
Yeah.
and that was pretty useful.
So, and then everything you compose is through a DAW and through the grid MIDI system and stuff, and like,
Yeah.
and there's no, you're not going writing on the what do they call it? Scoring? No.
No, I've never used paper.
Paper.
Which-
Yeah, that's
which
what that's called.
freaks people out. They're like, "Oh, can I get the sheet music for this?" I'm like, there is no sheet music for that." Well, how did you play it? I played it. I just played it. You played it without sheet music? It's like, yeah, you can too.
Yeah.
It's a thing you can learn how to do.
Yeah, I'm not very. I do the same thing. I just play it. I'll bring music to a band, and I'll be like, this song sounds like this, and I'll play the recorded versions. And they're like, well, what key is that in? I go, and they're like, go on it, and they find it before I do, and they're like, oh, it's in D minor. I'm like, yeah, it's in D minor. Yeah.
Yup.
For sure, it's in D minor. But with MIDI and the grid, I was able to do that. Like I could. I was able, you're able to, you can just switch it, be like, switch the scale, switch the mode. Oh, what does that scale sound like? Oh, I could feel that. Okay. And you have to know a little bit. I would imagine you have the some formal education in it. I would imagine you have some degree of understanding of the overtone series and just how the tones relate to each other in, progressions and stuff, all the basics, right? But as far as knowing all the right symbols and dynamic symbols and reading sheet music and all that stuff, yeah, I can read very slowly, very slowly, and I can do it, but it'll take me a while.
One part at a time. But that's a thing you can do.
Yeah.
So like, I have some things on my site, but like in the Hall of the Mountain King. Where you get the score, you get the conductor score, and you just read. All right, now I'm playing the flute part,
right,
at half speed, and then have the software fix it for you in post.
That's the bum 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 bum.
Yeah,
that's a good one. Yeah.
It's like, all right, now we're doing trombone 1. Now we're doing trombone 2. And then, you're putting in all the dynamics and you're playing it like a real player, and you laid off the key when people need to take a breath, and, put all those things into it. And eventually it sounds like an orchestra after, too many hours.
So are you investing in like contact libraries for these things, or are there like specific, because you said it's all software, so you just so you don't use keyboards with synthesized sound on it, you're just doing it all digitally in an audio workstation?
Yep. I don't have any analog audio anywhere in my flow.
And
so I use Cinesamples for everything orchestral.
I've heard some of their stuff. It's great.
It's really good, and it just sounds good out of the box. And you can mess with it enough. It's I haven't been disappointed by anything Cinesamples has done. But yeah, there's another company out there called Heaviosity, which I rely heavily on for their big percussion and weird cinematic stuff. But and weirdly enough, a lot of the built-in sounds from Logic Pro.
Hmm.
And that's a $200 buy. You get a DAW, you get all of the effects, and you get really quite enough instruments to make a living for $200.
Yeah.
It's like the best deal in music production. If you already have a Mac. You
Right.
don't have a Mac, you gotta look.
Yeah. I've been using FL Studio. Formerly Fruity Loops.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're much geared towards electronic stuff. Like they have great digital VSTs and stuff too, but not very orchestral ones at all. I've heard some of the Cinesamples like libraries, and I've downloaded a couple free ones. And I have one I got the Cinebrass. That's the one. That's what was in the opening theme song was I think it's Cinebrass or whatever it was. Just that. I forget what they called it, but I actually, you go through it and you can learn about the instruments through the Kontakt libraries. You just go and you go, oh, these are all the different types of techniques that you can do on that's what a flutter is on a flute, or that's what marcato is on a strings, or like all these things where you can really hear it and you can feel it when you're doing it. You don't even, it's a really crazy feeling to have an orchestra at your fingertips, right? You're just a little keyboard and feels like it. You're listening and you're like, I feel like to get these quality of recorded orchestral things. Like I would imagine, like if there's that famous Frank Zappa album that he did with the London Orchestra, right? And it cost him, probably millions of dollars to do that, right? And you can have a pretty decent recorded, whole orchestra, just for a few $100 or so here, and the stuff goes on sale.
Cinesamples does go on sale.
They go on sale.
You gotta definitely hit the sales and the bundle deals. They had one when I think like a couple of months ago when everything was going all wonky.
Yeah,
they had a sale of like, I don't know, $4,000 worth of stuff for $600. I'm like, oh man. You can't even get the percussion for $600 normally.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's what I've noticed.
You missed the sale.
I missed it. I don't have $600 anyway. That's all right.
You probably don't need it.
$4,000 worth of Cinesamples.
Yeah. But again, that's just a number they made up. So.
Right.
What are you gonna do?
So I would imagine then this whole pandemic situation hasn't really affected your business too much, right?
I thought it was going to, and it did affect my business. My business is up 30%.
It affected it that way. Okay.
Yeah. I thought I'm like, oh, well, that's the end of me, because everyone is going to drop all their donations because they don't have jobs. Everyone is going to, not pay for new things. Nobody's going to be buying stuff, but that's not what happened.
Yeah. Internet traffic just rose in general.
Yeah.
I got a message from Cloudflare when the first stuff was happening. They're like, expect 30% increases in your traffic. Like, prepare.
Oh, wow.
There's been certain regions where there's shelter in place. Like, that's what they've been noticing in Asia and stuff, that these places where once there's shelter in place, that's all you do. Yep. I mean, that's all most people do anyway, at least, but at least when there's not shelter in place, people can go outside with other people. You can still go outside. It's a beautiful day. Well, it's cold, but going outside is pretty important. But so you're talking about your flow and all this stuff. So how often are you composing this new stuff? It seems like you've had there's about 4,000 credits and stuff. And how many of those are unique songs, or are a lot of them one or two songs, or?
So like of everything that's listed there, I've probably custom composed, I don't know, Ooh. There was a while I was doing like, oh man, like 2 films a week back in the day.
So these are all commissioned, like
Um,
custom
I
commissions.
would say maybe 100 of them were custom scores or partial
Okay.
custom scores, and then most of them was not. Most of them is just they grabbed the music, they threw it in, and that's the end of that.
So that on in Compotech then, so you have this library, and then you have also this public domain library that you can give people these different options to get the music either for free or for this or that standard industry license.
Yeah.
And but you're saying that you also have a lot of custom commissions or like people who are asking you to make specific things then for the is that what you're talking about for films
Yeah, I
and
used
things?
to do that a lot more than I do now.
Is that be out of your choice of like because you want to do it, or that's just where people are asking for, or
Yeah, people. Well, I mean, there was a time when I turned down nothing,
yeah,
like just working continuously, and but people still ask me for new stuff. And if it's an interesting enough project, if it's an interesting enough game, absolutely. Like
yeah.
if I think I can add significantly, and the product looks good, yeah, I'll write new music.
And so, how do you deal with negotiating price for those commissioned works when everything's free and stuff like?
Yeah.
How do you? Is it just
I,
you gotta ask your take your last price and double it and that and every single
Well,
time?
I mean, a lot of it depends. The movie that I'm scoring right now, yeah, they've been trying to negotiate, like how much is this going to cost me, and I've just been pushing it off to the side. I'm like, I will do it
Just
for
tell me a
free.
number. Yeah.
I will absolutely do it for free, but pay me whatever you think it's worth. And well, right now, I could do a better job on it, but. So
You just
yeah,
kind of
no,
wait for them to throw out the
I've never
numbers.
beaten anyone up on price.
Yeah.
They're like, well, we got $1,200. Great. There are people who email me and they're like, hey, I love your stuff. I need you to do this project for me. And I look at the project and I'm like, oh, oh no, no. But then I just quote them like $3,000,
Yeah.
$4,000, and then
Yeah. That's it. That
and they're like, well, it's out of our budget. I'm like, well, that's what it's going to take for me to endure the pain of
right.
your short film.
Right. Yeah, that's happened to me once or twice before. Hey, will you play this house show? Yeah, I'm $300 an hour though. Like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah. That. So it sounds like you kind of just work with people's budgets and stuff, and are just pretty
Yeah.
open to everything, and people probably are just generally and genuinely happy that they don't have to bust their bank and just because
Yeah.
I don't know how many when that happens do people come to you with like films or like music that they want you to replicate more or less, like here's the sounds that we like, there's these songs, so here we put Iron Man here, we want that or something.
Mm-hmm.
And because I've heard that in the processes of like music directors and all these things, that sometimes they'll do that, and I'm just curious because I'm not really in that world, but is it someone come to you with an idea of scoring, and like has there been times when I don't know, there's a lot of interesting areas in there to explore, but what like
Right.
is the directors coming to you with something empty and saying go at it, or is it they have a specific direction, or a lot of it, imagine that's what they want you for, right? Is so they don't have to think about it.
Well, okay. Yeah, you're right. This is huge.
Yeah.
Let's step back and talk about a couple of things here. There is a thing called a sound-alike,
Is that right?
which is we want you to get as close to this thing as you legally can. It's like,
right.
we would have licensed this, but it was $15,000, and you're only charging us $1,000. Just get as close to it as you can. I hate those jobs.
Yeah.
Because and not because it's hard, but because it's morally dubious. It's like, if you really wanted that song, go get it. Go pay for it. It's like, no, we want people to think of that song, but we don't want to pay them. And I hate doing those.
Yeah.
I think I don't even, did I ever do one? I don't think I've ever done one. We want you to record this Bach piece. No problemo. I will record your Bach piece. Nobody needs to get paid for that. No,
Right.
no, I'm not taking money out of the
Bach estate.
Bach estate. It's gone for a while now. But I absolutely appreciate it. Like if a director will say, all right, here's like 3 pieces of music that kind of fit what we're doing. So here's
Right.
something for you to start on. We're looking for this style of thing.
Here's some like arrangement or idea, like certain the instrumentation or whatever.
We're looking for, something that's about this happy, about this fast, about this dense. Very, very useful. So no, I will absolutely do that. It's like, can you do something that's kind of like, well, yeah, if it's not a direct sound alike, yeah, I can do whatever, man.
Yeah, I've definitely heard those sound alike things, and when you hear it and when you recognize it, it's almost it. I just as a listener or as a consumer of whatever it was that I just heard, I always go like, "That son of a bitch,"
Yeah.
I'd be like these
Hate
people, yeah, like
Absolutely hate it.
And I remember there was a great running segment on Conan O'Brien where they would do that like on purpose. He would just be like, test the band, be like, try to and put them to test to see how they could make music, how they could play the music. Yeah, they'll sound alike music. To just expose that. And I didn't even realize that was such until I started watching, until on Conan, there was he was exposing that kind of to a degree of like how that's just everywhere. And then I would hear that when I would like listen to like Letterman or something where it would be like, you can tell it's clearly it's the same scale, but it's in a different pattern and there's different rhythm.
Yep.
Like change the key.
Transpose 2 notes here and there. Yep.
And I'd be like, I know that, but it just feels, it's like a generic, just feels generic, right? It loses the kind of the impact to a degree of what that is. So I gotta understand that. Yeah. And I would imagine it's not very fun. Like you were saying, it's not just morally dubious, but it's also just not fun at all. Like it's not, you're not really exercising flexing any creative things to a degree. I don't know.
I'm being legally creative enough.
Yeah, just enough. The bare minimum.
Ugh.
So okay, so then what are the big things that you're working on now? I mean, it sounds like you have that site. Like, are you have plans for that site in the future? To remind me, and everyone listening again. There's Incompetech. I know that because that's a really funny name. But
and then freepd.com.
And that stands for free public domain.
Yep, free public domain. The claim to fame on that is you can easily find a piece of music by looking at emojis.
I did see that, yeah. So you're just categorizing moods and stuff by emojis?
Yep. Because it's one of those, like, because everybody understands emoji. Yeah. You can be from China and we still use the same set of emojis. They might mean something slightly different, but one of the problems when you're trying to find music is it takes so long to audition music. And by the time you've listened to your 8th piece, you don't remember any of them. Your brain is full.
Yeah.
And it's just not okay. But if you're looking down a list and you see like some knives and a chain and an evil face, you will know if that's going to work for your project or not. You don't even have to listen to it.
So what made you think that just is a more effective international communication rather than maybe like categorizing things by mood? Like, so instead of saying horror or suspense, you put
Yeah.
those emojis there.
Well, the other problem is there's a lot of different kinds of horror, and there's a lot of
Right.
different kinds of happy, and there's a lot of different kinds of sad. And if you just do sad and then, rank it by like the most downloaded ones so that you get some sort of ordering there, everyone uses the same sad piece, even though it's not the right kind of sad for your film or
Right.
your video game.
So you think people just see the sad and they go like, I guess this is sad.
Yeah, this must be sad, and a lot of people don't know, and that's fine. That's not their job.
So when you try to make sad music, then like what kind of, how do you approach a sad song?
So what kind of sad?
I don't know. Like devastating, like heartbreaking sad, like
Heartbreaking sad. Okay, well, cellos and pianos are good for heartbreaking sad. Certainly not going to be fast.
yeah, slow.
Um,
What kinds of sads are there? What kinds of sad are there?
well, okay, there's
You can
I
speak
got
in emoji.
rejected by I was just trying to ask someone out to the school dance and I was rejected. That's very different from both of my parents died.
Yeah,
This is,
grief versus rejection, sad.
yeah. And
yeah,
God, how many other kinds of sad are there?
Disappointment.
There's just the sad person who just is, the person who stays at home and eats popcorn and watches television and never has a life and is just depressed. That's another kind of sad. And there's multiple kinds of depression.
yeah.
So you got to know what you're shooting for in order to do the instrumentation for it.
So why is it just free PD came out after and you're experimenting with this emoji categorization of it? Is why do you have plans to put that on Incompetech at all, or is Incompetech just a totally different?
Incompetech is a different thing. It's got different people. They come from different countries. Free PD is huge in China. Why? I don't know. But that's like 40% of my traffic to Free PD is Chinese, and about less than 1% and is China from Incompetech.
Interesting.
No idea why.
It's probably just that keyword, public domain or something, maybe,
Yeah, maybe.
Know. Huh.
Or the fact that it's simpler.
Yeah.
It's easier to do. Yeah. I got nothing.
Yeah. Well,
I see the wheels turning there. It's like, oh, yeah. There's a lot of different market segments out there.
Yeah, there really is. I don't think I have too much Chinese. There was, and I would imagine. Because for me, I've experienced just a song does well because of YouTubers or podcasters or stuff, and then all of a sudden, now Polish traffic has increased and like now a steady, second place constantly to the United States just from Poland, and getting more Polish people messaging me and more Polish things. It's like, oh wow, just from one song, like, or one YouTuber using the song regularly and then switching and starting to use more and more and more. And then that's an interesting part about all this too, is when giving for free is the kind of inherent viral nature of sharing, right? Is that when this one Polish YouTuber uses it and he's got 100,000 people that follow him that are Polish, how many of those are creators and how many of them have their own Polish channels? And then how many of them have friends from different countries and different regions, and and so on and so forth. So how long did it take for till you felt like the stone was really turning and gears were moving and things were like, oh wow, this is really moving somewhere and this is really growing. This is a sustainable and I would imagine you have that software background, so like to make it a well-oiled machine to a degree, how was it just a lot of struggle, or was it just really kind of just you just let it happen and didn't really?
Yeah, I never pushed anything. I never forced anything. I did the stuff. I tried to make things useful for people. I tried to make the site easy to use. Um, when I made it too easy to use, then I lost people, which is weird. So I had to make it like just slightly confusing
Hmm.
so that people would stay on the site and read the descriptions. And
I mean, like the bounce rate, like totally changed,
yeah, the
or
bounce rate went like when I made it like super easy, people would be like, boom, got my thing gone.
right,
Oh, well, there goes all my ad revenue.
right.
Oops.
Oh,
Well,
so
and
you,
ad revenue is all dying now because of ad blockers, but
yeah, okay, yeah. I have ad blockers. So I was gonna say I didn't even know you had ads on it.
oh yeah, I have ad blockers too. I don't even yell at people for running ad blockers. It's
Yeah.
fine.
When I see that on sites, I go, really? And they'll be like,
Yeah. Well, apparently I didn't need you.
yeah,
Sorry, New York Times.
yeah. Huh. So there's a project that I'm working on with a couple people, and it's essentially, yeah, it's called Free Music Land,
Okay.
and it's a website to house, yeah, attribution, music for attribution, like Creative Commons thing, to try to be, yeah, where what kind of take up the slack of what Free Music Archive
Oh,
didn't, since they're not around really
yeah.
anymore as a community. And I just figured, if they're gone, it's as good as time as any. And it's a way for me to kind of double down on the principles. The Creative Commons principles is to be like, okay, really invest in it by advocating to everyone. Because, and part of why it made me start thinking about making it was I wanted to make a honeypot for these keywords online for like Creative Commons, free music, royalty free. But with the music that I create on my site, it's like it's part of the whole package, but it's like I don't compose as Ian McCullah. I'm composed as like Cullah, and it's kind of this. It's a more artist like kind of
Yeah.
branding thing and stuff. So, and it's confusing to me when I would try to like do both worlds, like you were talking about, of having the two sites. Like, how do I make it clear that this is licensing, like you can license all this stuff, but also find me on tour and watch my videos and all the other goodies of like being a band or a musician. So I thought, well, I'll just make another site that's just Creative Commons and royalty free things are plastered all over it, and then I just put my music featured all the time, and
Oh,
then
look at the top slot this week.
yeah, exactly. So, and yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
that seems really good.
yeah, I don't, because yeah, that's why I'm genuinely like, yeah, really curious about all the things you're doing and automating these licenses and stuff. And it seems like it's a daunting task to a degree with a lot of things, to be managing then all these artists and dealing with the legal issues of that, because you gotta hope and assume, right, like that these people are uploading things that they own. I mean,
Yeah.
it sounds like with free PD, like you know for sure, and you can filter them out, and the people, and their
Oh yeah.
their
Yeah, it's not an open submission thing.
yeah.
You can't just give your music away for free.
It
You
goes through
gotta
proper
know a
channels.
guy. Give your music away for free.
I mean, you could put your music on archive.org and put it in public domain, but that site is very difficult to find things.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned, that's quite a challenge, and one of the motivating factors behind Free Music Land and building that is just hearing constant woes from filmmakers. Just the woes that they have of finding. They're just like, you have no idea how hard it is to find the music that I want to find. And I'll be like,
Yeah.
I believe you. I don't know, but I believe you, because I've experienced, everyone's experienced that, just searching for something you can't find it and stuff. And editing for an uninspired music, right? Edit, like yeah, you can get those CDs from these stock music companies, but they're uninspired, and it's fine if you're making a little corporate video for something they don't care. But if you're an artist or a creator that really wants to have some like narrative weight or something, like you're talking about really feeling the emotion and stuff, like you want something that's inspired, or at least something. So I thought if there's that's why the emoji thing is interesting, because there's a couple guys that are helping me out in Germany as well. There's one German and one Minnesotan, and and we're trying to, we're building building all the tools to make it happen, and just setting it all up, and it's still a work in progress. We'll have a beta hopefully by the end of the week to be being released. Ooh. But yeah, I mean, I'd be interested to hear, some other time, or if you're interested, I'd put you on the spot here on live streaming. But I've been getting already a lot of vast amount of knowledge and information, and honestly, that offering of the non-attribution license alongside things seemed like a big deal for me when I looked at that, in terms of because people would ask how much, and be like, well, it's free. You didn't read the licensing page. Like, it's free. But I mean, I don't see I don't see many other people that are that are doing that, and that's part of why I wanted to bring you on, is ask you these Creative Commons principles, and why they're important, and why isn't it as big as it could be when it's done so much, when it's brought so much value to people like yourself and all the creators that you've used your that's the biggest thing for me, is like seeing what people do with the music and how they create such beautiful things that elevate my music to a whole nother level. And you see it and you're just like, man, that thing was garbage before you put it up over your video, and all of a sudden this is like, I'm about to cry. Like, it's beautiful, so I'm with you on that vision and that mission of trying to make it a way, make Free Music Archive was good in a lot of ways, because it was really just the only place that people could do that. But if there's a way to kind of learn from their mistakes, but also try and go into a new era of some sort of way to push the Creative Commons principles. So I was talking, you might know Rhino the Bearded.
Yes.
Yeah, Rhino the Bearded, and we my last tour around, well, before, when we were allowed to tour without without the risk of death.
The before time.
Before, I think Sybil, his partner, was mentioning something about her showing Creative Commons site, either my site or your site or something, showing it to her high school students, or was it grade school students or something, and they were just blown away that there was music that didn't have commercials in it, and that didn't have. They were just like, what? They just, it just didn't, it was like something alien. And I think that's really kind of sad. Like when I heard that, and I was just like, I mean, good for me, in a way. I was like, I saw that as an opportunity, or like as a reinforcement of like, oh, maybe this is the way of the future. And I start seeing it more and more. I was talking to a nurse the other day, and she was doing some theoretical, she's just getting her practitioner's license, something. She has to write all these papers, and all these scientific journals are starting to open up to Creative Commons now, and
very nice.
And more images and more things are starting to open up to this idea, because it's like, I don't know.
It is super important to have a shared culture. And, once you copyright a thing and you lock it down, even if it's pervasive for a time, that thing is locked up for 125 years sometimes. And nobody else can use it. I mean, the Beatles don't need any more money off of their old catalog.
Right.
And yet that's not going to get into the public domain for a long time. And we're losing some of these things which could have been, I mean, they're not super commercially viable. Some of them still are, but there's a lot of things that aren't, and they're just dying. There's this public domain hole. I mean, especially with older works where you might not even know who has the rights to it. So you can't get the rights because you don't know. And then like no reasonable legal department is going to touch that with a 10-foot pole, even though it would be great.
Or
to have recording from 1938 even. Well, it's still under copyright. We can't touch it.
Yeah.
Although we don't know who owns it.
Or I experienced that once. I have a song called Italian Hip Hop, and it's just a sample from this old like nickel vinyl that was in Italy that was sent out with with magazines, like pop magazines. I did the research on this after because someone wanted to use it for commercial licensing. That was a company that was like their client was Viacom, and I was like, I don't know if I want to. I don't know but so I did some research on it, and I was looking like, what are the Italian laws? Okay, what is this like? Doing some hard research into who this composer. It didn't even say who the composer or the rights owner was. We just know the singer, and like as far as I could do research on, like maybe if you go to Italy and you look in all these records and you dig through some of their libraries, and I don't speak Italian, they don't speak the person who wanted the music didn't speak Italian, and it's really old. And the laws were like, okay, 60 years after the person died, but when did they die? I don't know. I don't know when they died.
They wrote that when they were 20 and they lived to be 80. They still got 30 years.
Exactly. So it's very confusing, and so I kind of just I sent a paragraph of that, like it's probably good to go, but I can't give you a guarantee. And then they just never replied.
Nope.
They just never replied.
You can't indemnify them. They're not going to take the risk.
I was like, shoot, I should have just said, yeah, totally good. I don't know. It's hard to say that. Yeah, the ethical questions are then, it's up in the air. But I mean, I agree with the overall the idea of the shared culture, and that's the motto of Free Music Land is free the culture, and it's really, I think it's been really freeing to me in a lot of ways. Like I feel like when I use Creative Commons and this attribution, I feel like I have this like ethical armor. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's like I have this thing like I give my music away for free. You can't complain to me. I don't know. Like it's like what else do you want me to do? Like I give it access. I give it access to everyone, and I give access to everyone for this, and I just feel, like we have a lot of good ideas of Free Music Land, and the one being like getting into these different markets, and not just being an advocate for this Creative Commons, but the hope is to also be some sort of like collective leverage, where you can like. If more people are in it, and the more and more people sign up, the more leverage then you have to be able to shift the culture, like you said.
Right.
Shift it in a way where how many people are just desperate for this stuff, right? More than most. Like how many people really need music that they rely on for their living is to get this free music. So you get everyone involved, and like one of the big ideas we have is about like a Twitch plugin for Free Music Land where people can stream this licensing thing, or the same thing or for their OBS, open broker.
Definitely make it easy. Build those playlists so they don't have to build them themselves.
Yeah, exactly. Just building the playlist, and just that, because that's the thing about the Free Music Archive is Free Music Archive was there's like the hugest thing for me. It was the way where creators could find it. So then find my music, and they had a terrible discovery. They would just, you're lucky if you're on the front page of some playlist, maybe you'll get some plays. Yeah. Or you search by mood, but it would just be so arbitrary how it was being
Right.
being
And then people tag their pieces with like 15 different moods. I'm all of them.
yeah, or one's
This
hit
one's
yeah
happy and sad and uplifting and depressing. And yeah.
yeah, and so how do you, or there's always that categorize with when you I hate those sites where you can add your own genres. I know like SoundCloud had that at the beginning where you add your own genres and then there's 20 different hip hops, one with a dash, one that's uppercase, one that's one word, one that's two word, one
Yeah.
that's misspelled, you know, all those things. But yeah, I
Yeah.
mean,
Having a consistent editor for the entire site is really useful.
yeah.
So you don't have people labeling their own stuff with shades off, but now it's yeah. Finding music is hard. That is
Yeah.
the hardest problem.
Yeah. And emojis can only help so much with communication, right?
They can only help so much. I was working on a project with a guy to do categorization via AI.
Mm-hmm.
And so it could tell not only if a piece was happy, but how happy it was. And so that way you could like go on a grid and go, oh, I want it to be this amount of happy, this amount of
Wow.
maudlin. I don't forget what all the categories were. And then it'll find here are the 10 pieces that clump closest to what you asked for. And it worked really great. And they opened it up to the users, and people were doing one search on when I want something happy, I want the happiest possible thing
Right.
and nothing else. And so, like, even though it
Huh.
was well categorized, the people going into it were just like, oh, if I want a horror piece, I want the scariest possible one. Like,
Right.
do you? Like,
Maybe
yeah,
they don't have the context, right? Maybe they don't know
yeah,
the context of what's too scary or what's not. Or
right.
yeah. But that's not, I mean the AI at least sounds, if you don't allow the users to use it, at least it sounds like it can categorize the songs themselves though.
Yeah, it categorizes. It does pretty good.
So this is an open software?
It is not.
No.
I think it's based. Oh, what is it based on? It's what is the big Google project? It's based on the big Google AI framework, but it's it's not from Google. It was
Sure.
they wrote software around the core Google stuff.
Sure. Yeah, I know there's Google Labs, but I don't know their particular. Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
another thing too. We got to apply for this YouTube partnership so we can access the Content ID API, so we can cross-reference all the things that are uploaded, so we can make sure that they're all safe for YouTube. Because there's no, like I was mentioning, my friend having issues just having a radio station with his neighbors and friends, just like that's on Facebook. But I know you, like you mentioned, YouTube's a little more evolved with their copyright management and stuff, and
But yeah, even on YouTube, even today, I will have a piece of music that's been in videos for 7 years. And then all of a sudden someone will take my piece of music, try to publish it through DistroKid or something. It gets looped into that
right.
system, and well, now I've got a lot of emails to send to try and get it depublished.
Yeah.
So even if you do your best, it's not going to be 100%.
So have you been following this new Music Modernization Act?
Yes.
So how you think that will change things? Because from my understanding, it's going to establish a central database from songs,
Yep.
right? For digital, the digital space.
Right. And then people can get percentage writing credits now, which was never true before.
Really? It would just be a
Yeah,
writer or a
you
publisher.
couldn't be like a 3% contributor or something like that.
Oh. So
And then they do the payouts directly, which I mean it needed to happen if we're going to keep that stuff going, but I don't it's nothing interesting for what I do.
Yeah. Yeah, I would imagine that changes things because I mean, right now I know there's just it's just a hodgepodge, and it's all up to the creator and the composer to make sure everyone else is giving them the money that
Yeah.
you know that they are getting. And so it's very confusing then too. But I've heard that probably happens with other artists as well too, not just Creative Commons, right? Like that they get re-uploaded somewhere else, and
Yeah.
there's such confusion, and that's why I'm like, I would like to tell every single person to use DistroKid who would use Free Music Land and just opt out of the YouTube, and just like get your thing in that system as soon as possible,
Yep.
you know, and so then if someone else uploads it, it can get flagged right away before it gets out there. Because was that this particular instance you're talking about? Was that song of yours submitted through DistroKid or through these?
I think that came out before DistroKid existed.
Yeah.
So, and I haven't gone through the back catalog because let's be fair, most of my early stuff is terrible.
Till when? When did it change? When did it start to get good?
Just about last week. I think I'm starting to get good now.
Finally hitting a stride.
Yep.
All right, Kevin. Well, it's we've been chatting for about 2 hours.
All right.
So I think we're at a good spot. I really appreciate your time and knowledge and all this stuff. It's really fascinating. I think I think we share that sentiment that more people should be listening to the ideas of Creative Commons and those concepts and those philosophies, and that that giving your music out for free actually is better. That's the better way to do it.
It's better on so many levels.
Yeah, there's many other, there's many other layers to that statement. There's an asterisk on there maybe, but yeah. So Kevin MacLeod, thanks so much for coming on Cullahcast. I really appreciate it. And
yeah, I really appreciate being invited.
Yeah, of course. I'll just cut to this commercial or not this commercial. I'm still after 2 hours. I'm starting to lose it. I'll cut to this.
Did not feel like 2 hours.
This song, and then I'll still be here with you in a second. We can say goodbye. All right, bye everybody. Thanks for tuning in.